Tommy Ivisic could be out for a while, and that could be some big trouble for the Illini.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to another weekend edition of Locked On Illini. First and foremost, before I get started, we hit 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. I am so grateful for us to reach this level. I think we've been around for 7 months or so. We continue to be one of the fastest growing channels here on Locked On, the entire network in general. So I just wanted to thank the Illini community. That was wonderful news. That's the best way to kick off the weekend. And so I sincerely just wanted to take a second real quick and to just appreciate each and every one of you. In not so great news, Brad Underwood said earlier on Saturday that looks like Tomislav Ivisic is going to miss the game against the Northwestern Wildcats on Sunday because he has mono. Now, mono is one of those diseases. It's I've had it. It's tough to diagnose in the sense where you don't know what the timetable is going to be for Tommy. He could be back in a week. He could be gone for a month. He could be gone for a couple of months, right? This is just one of those diseases that you just don't know how it's going to affect any certain individual. And I have to say that this could be devastating for the Illini. I mentioned this on the show before. I think the most important player for the Illini basketball team is Tomislav Ivisic because there's nobody else on this team that can really replicate what he does. I'm not saying he's the best player. Casparis is clearly the best player, but we have a lot more guards and wings than we do big men. And right now, I think we saw glaringly against Maryland that Kerry Booth may not be the big that we thought he was going to be. And so with just Morez Johnson in there, and Morez Johnson, the guy who, unfortunately, just he can't stay out of foul trouble like the typical Big Ten freshman big. This could mean trouble for the Illini. It's not all bad because we've already lost to Maryland. That was the previous game. And Maryland, and when I think off the top of my head, Indiana and Michigan are the three teams that come off the top of my head that would really take advantage of an Ivisic absence. As I said, Indiana and Maryland, we just got finished playing. And Michigan, we don't play until, I believe, March 2nd. So there's a lot of time in between that for Ivisic to get ready and get acclimated again. And that's kind of the tough part because even when he does come back, let's just say this sickness lasts for a couple of weeks. It's still, he's going to need to get his energy back, his cardio back, and just get reacclimated to the game of college basketball. So all of those are just their circumstances that, hey, this is what sports is all about. Adversity. There's no season all of a sudden where you don't have to deal with hard problems. And right now, Illinois is dealing with one of the more difficult problems that they're going to have to deal with. Again, the good thing is the schedule, at least for the next few games, gets a little lighter. Northwestern, who Illinois will play on Sunday, and I'll get to that in a little bit. You have Matthew Nicholson, but Matthew Nicholson's not really a guy who's going to get the ball down low and score. That's just not his game. He's a guy there to rebound the basketball and be a big body. Nebraska, Ohio State, Rutgers, Minnesota, UCLA. The next few games, you're not necessarily going to lament the loss of Ivisic not being there. Doesn't mean that those teams won't be able to expose it. And Brad and the coaching staff, they're going to be hard at work trying to figure out what the backup plan is right now. Because I can tell you certainly, as much as I appreciate him, Jake Davis guarding a Big Ten big is just not it. It's not going to work. The good news is before Maryland, a lot of the players weren't even practicing, and certainly they weren't practicing at full strength. Brad did say in today's press conference that all the players minus Tommy are practicing together. So it does look like, besides Ivisic, we're going to have a full squad on Sunday, and that's very important because this game against Northwestern is very important for many reasons. I'll start off with the reasons that don't matter, right? Illinois has not been swept by Northwestern since, I believe, 1966. I believe I read that stat right before I started recording here. That's a very, very long time. Now, ultimately, does that stat matter? No, it doesn't matter. What does matter is the Big Ten Conference. Illinois has now lost 3 of their last 4. They're sitting at 5-4 in the conference. Michigan State just earlier today just won again against Rutgers. The division, the conference itself is running away, and not something I want to focus too much on. But you still have to work on your net ratings, right? Your KenPom ratings. You still want to finish with a very solid record, because even if the Big Ten Conference doesn't matter, March still does. And you still want to have those numbers in your favor as opposed to not being in your favor. Because if you don't have the best record in the world, maybe it can get balanced out by some of the analytics that these committees look over nowadays. But, if both look bad, if the record looks bad, and also the team in the number sense looks bad, then Illinois could be in trouble. Illinois at that point could be staring at a 7 seed, at an 8 seed, and that's just not something you want. There's going to be a lot of new important players that we're going to have to count on stepping up. And, first and foremost being my favorite player on this team. My everydayers in here know it. It's Morez Johnson. He's a guy who I think is supremely talented. I think, he's some more. I'm not going to comment about refereeings, because I still have Spartans fans watching my videos. By the way, thank you. I'm sure you guys also helped me push over 2,000 subs this past week. But he gets a quick whistle, right? And this is not just Morez. I don't think anyone's picking on Morez Johnson. This is a Big Ten thing. Ever since I remember watching the conference. It's if you're a Big Ten big with the physicality of this league, the referees are going to give those new to the league less of a benefit of the doubt. And Morez is just simply one of those players who's struggled as of late, just staying on the court. Does he have the talent? Sure. He's still one of the most talented big men in the Big Ten Conference. And that's what, I think going to be one of the keys. Can he stay on the court for 20, 25 minutes? Morez Johnson is a much more physical beast than Tomislav is. Now, he's not the quarterback on defense that Tomislav is. Obviously, Brad Underwood and Jake Davis was interviewed on Saturday, and they discussed that. I think Jake Davis used the word anchor, that Tomislav is the anchor to that defense. And Illinois' defense has been one of the best in the entire country all season long. And a big part of that has been Tomislav Ivisic, and just his vocal leadership back there, and having a 7'1", 260-pound guy is it's never necessarily a bad thing. The other guy we're going to have to just hope steps it up is Carey Booth. Now, I know that's going to have a lot of you roll your eyes, but you know what? Maybe this could be the opportunity he needs. He's obviously not showing much in practice, but Brad at this point is going to have no other option than to give Carey Booth minutes while Tomislav is gone. Now, is that going to be 5 minutes? Like literally, hey, Morez, go sit down, catch a breather. Jake Davis, wait, Jake's tired too. Okay, fine. Okay, Carey Booth, you go in and then sub him out immediately afterwards? Or can it be 10 minutes? Can it be 15 minutes? Can we see flashes of what brought him to Champaign, of what's put him in NBA mock drafts coming into this year? Obviously, right now, Illinois fans, we don't see much of it. And I'm not going to put too much weight on the game against Maryland because, as I've said repeatedly now, Maryland was just a bad matchup between Julian Reese, if you guys recall, even last year, schooled Coleman Hawkins down low. So it's not like he doesn't have experience beating up on Illinois. I can't even call him bigs, lack of bigs. But Carey Booth he's just a guy who may have the length, but he doesn't have the girth. He doesn't have the size. He's not much of a rebounder. Again, with the next batch of games coming up, I don't think Carey Booth's going to have to worry so much about the physicality of the guys that he's going up against. What I liked was that he wasn't hesitant on shooting. Yeah, I think he only made 1 of 6 against Maryland, but the fact that he was shooting them, if a couple of those fall, that's all we kind of need. Maybe that helps with his confidence. And who knows? This might be me just trying to be optimistic about this, but maybe if over the next 5-6 games, Carey Booth can develop some kind of rhythm and prove to Brad and the staff that he belongs in the Big Ten Conference and that he can be a decent option off the bench over the net for 10 minutes a game, that could prove invaluable for the team come March, when Tomislav, at that point, you hope, becomes healthy and is ready to play, and when the real season for the Illini starts. Speaking of the real season, Sunday, it's going to be Illinois versus Northwestern. First and foremost, if you guys don't mind, let's hit that like button. We got 10 likes in here, 31 people watching, so let's get those numbers a little bit higher. If you missed the beginning of the show, we hit 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. I'm so grateful to each and every one of you. Now find me on the audio side and download me on your favorite audio platform as well. So this Northwestern game, I'm not going to lie. My friends, the people I work with, they're a lot more confident than I am about this Wildcats team and about this game against Sunday. I'm getting a lot of text messages saying this is a good matchup for the Illini, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe for whatever reason, I just hold this Northwestern team in higher regard. I think Brooks is arguably the Big Ten Player of the Year. It's probably between him and Braden Smith from Purdue. We saw what Martinelli did against us last game, where he just abused Ben. And quite honestly, the worry also comes from the Illini side. I just want to know, where's the confidence level? Does this team feel confident right now? Does this team feel like it's a good team right now? Or is it just one of those where there's low energy? I mean, of course, some of the low energy has to do with the team being sick for the past week. But, sure, they're healthy enough to play, but are they healthy enough to put out 110% energy that we kind of need, that was obviously lacking against Maryland? I don't know that. And that's kind of why I'm so nervous about the tip-off on Sunday. And this is going to be the case for pretty much every game this season, for the remaining games. I think Illinois can go into Mackey and beat Purdue, but I also think that the worst Big Ten teams can come into State Farm Center and they can beat the Illini. There's no easy games that I'm going to chalk up as a win or a loss anymore. And now, with the added circumstances of Ivisic being gone and the team being unhealthy, I admit I'm a little bit even more nervous for this game against Northwestern. I'm very curious to see what defensively Brad does against the Wildcats, because obviously last game that they played, it was either Brooks or Martinelli. They'd target Humrick House and basically back him down, easy basket after easy basket. And Brad Underwood, being Brad Underwood, just was very slow to adjust. In fact, he really didn't even adjust. And ultimately, we lost that game, which was our first Big Ten loss of the season, which, it's just not something you want to start the season off with. My thinking is, with being shorthanded, do you trust putting a guy like Morez Johnson on Martinelli? Or do you think Martinelli gets Morez Johnson into foul trouble? Because Martinelli's not going to do that to Morez, what he did to Ben Humrick House. And it's easier to hide Ben against a guy who's not going to score. What's his name? Henderson, their center. But if Morez gets into foul trouble, then once again, you're talking about big time minutes for Jake Davis, Kerry Booth, all these guys who are not built to play the 5 at the Big Ten level, and forcing them essentially to play there. So I'm very curious to see defensively what kind of adjustments Brad does make. I don't think it's a secret that he's not very good at making in-game adjustments, but I do think that he and the staff are getting better, and actually not even so bad at this point at making adjustments from game to game. But Brad also tends to be a little bit stubborn, so who knows? We'll see. We know they're not going to go zone, but you're not going to necessarily have to go zone against Northwestern, because they're not going to do what Maryland did. Northwestern's not a team that likes to shoot three-pointers. That's kind of what Illinois' defense is built around, which should be interesting. Northwestern's very content taking the middle range jump shots. So are they going to fall in, or are they not going to fall in? That's going to be the question. That's not going to just be a question for the Wildcats. It's going to be a question for the Illini. This is a team that's just stopped shooting. think I saw a stat by Derek Piper where he said that since Big Ten season started, Illinois is second to last in 3-point percentage. And this is the team that's built to shoot 3-pointers. Now, does that mean this team is just that? Just a lousy shooting 3-point team? Well, then we all have to adjust our expectations. We're not going to beat anybody. It's going to be a grind every single game because regardless if the team itself is more talented than the one on the other side of the court, if the game plan for this team is not built for the talent that's here, then it's a bad fit. I think what Brad's counting on, I think what I'm counting on is those averages to go up a little bit. I'm speaking of as a Cubs fan, like last summer during that season for 2 months, the Cubs just stopped hitting, even though they have some decent talent on offense. And 3 months later, they start hitting again. And the averages now at the end of the season don't look as bad as they looked during that 2-month stretch. Maybe that's what's going to happen. Maybe all of a sudden, Casparis, who I'm going to get to in a second, but Ben Hummerkaus, Kylan Boswell. Kylan hasn't been a good shooter all year. He's been solid in some of the other categories for his responsibilities, but shooting has certainly not been one of them. But Will Riley, is he going to be able to get his averages up? If this team shoots well, they're going to win. It's really quite that simple at this point. The way this offense is formed, the game plan every single game. If the 3-point shot is going in, then I'm not even worried about what the other team is doing on the other side because we'll trade the 2 for 3. But the problem is the shots aren't falling. If Illinois made even 5 or 6 more of those 3-pointers against Maryland earlier in the game, that game's a lot closer. And, I can see a close game up until the end. But I just think Illinois ran out of energy with about 10 minutes left, seeing that the shots weren't going in. And Casparis just wasn't able to reach that next level, which is what I'm going to get to next. This is going to be a huge Casparis game. He's the number one guy I have my eye on. If he's the top draft pick that everyone's talking about, he's got to recognize that this team needs him right now, especially without Ivisic. Ivisic is the other playmaker. Casparis is now the only one. And Casparis needs to, fine, maybe the first 4-5 minutes, if you want to pass it off and set your teammates up, do that. But what I want Casparis to do is the first 5 times he touches the ball, attack the rim or take a step back 3. Let's get a couple points early and settle the rest of the team down. Just kind of send a message like, hey, guys, I got you. Let's do this. Let's do this together. But don't worry, I'm here. I got this. I understand Casparis wanting to, do the LeBron thing where making the right basketball play. And if he's attacking the rim, there's a guy open for 3, you pass it to him. That's fine. But right now, with the way this Illinois team is being built, his teammates aren't making the shots. So right now, Casparis is the only guy I really trust with the ball in his hands. And for me, my ideal scenario is Casparis goes for 25 plus points against the Wildcats on Sunday. Maybe has 7 rebounds, 7 assists. I just need a monster Casparis game, an I'm him game from Casparis, saying, hey, look, things are a little rocky right now. I understand the fan base is feeling a little uneasy. I know the team itself, we're kind of sick. We're not at our best right now. The opposing fan bases right now are roasting, the Illini fan base. But listen, none of that matters. I'm here. I'm him. Let's go. So let's see what you got, Casparis. All right, I'll get to the comments real quick. Again, this is Saturday, January 25th. I produce videos each and every day. I've produced videos now for 27 straight days. I went back and checked. I've only missed 1 day since December 22nd. And I do this because you guys continue to show the support that you guys do. So I just want you all to know that I sincerely appreciate each and every one of you. Garrett, nice to see you. Says, y'all go hit that like button. Absolutely. Check it out. Says, we learned how to play last year without a center. Yes, it's just a different team, right? A completely different team. And hopefully we don't have to go that long. Philip says, it's mid-January, that time of the year where it's weird, wacky games happen. Thanks for reminding me, Will. Philip, I was about to address this. Minnesota is on a 3-game winning streak, all quad 1 games. Exactly. Weird things happen in January, right? I said this could be the low point of the Illini season. There's a chance of that. And we're all going to look back at January and remember, like, oh man, remember how much we were kind of panicking back then? Things were looking bleak. But in a month and a half's time, in 2 months' time, if the team does click, and this message is just for Illini fans, the more positive ones, like myself, this team absolutely still has the highest ceiling of anybody in the Big Ten Conference. And no, they're not going to win the conference this year, but I still think that, gun to my head, if I had to pick one guy or one team that could win the national title from this conference, it's Illinois. Illinois is the only team on its best night that I think could beat the Auburns, the Tennessees, the Dukes. So maybe January is just a big weird month. It's been a weird month for the Big Ten in general, and not just the Illini. Robert says, I'm generally good with Brad's coaching, but he's getting beaten out by Izzo's browbeating of official. Izzo's using the old Bobby Knight tactics of having temper tantrums if things don't go his way. You're right, Robert. Brad has definitely changed. He's mellowed out over the last couple of years. I don't know if it's having his son on the baseline with them, or what I really think it is. It's 2 seasons ago, 2022, 2023, when essentially Jaden Epps left. Matthew Myers. That was the Matthew Myers season. I think a lot of people put a lot of pressure on Brad about the way he coached and the way he, quote unquote, yelled at his players and whatnot. And I think he spent that summer reflecting a lot. And I've noticed an adjustment in temperament. I mean, that's not to say he never lashes out. He still has his Brad moments, but it's certainly not as often as it used to be. And could that be, detrimental to what he's doing right now? Yeah. Do I wish sometimes we got the old Brad Underwood back? Yeah. But, I don't know if this might just be a permanent change. Philip also says, need a reel with all the bad and questionable calls against Morez. It's a lot of 50-50 at best calls. Czar says, Kerry Booth. I mean, the thing, let's be honest. We're going to have to count on Kerry at this point. He's going to be the best tall, how do I phrase it? The best tall guy off the bench that we have, right? Former 4-star talent. Obviously, he hasn't shown that at Illinois. He showed glimpses of it last year at Notre Dame. This might be a bad system for him, and Brad hasn't played him, but Brad's going to have no choice but to play Booth at this point. St. Dominic says, we are done for the season. I'm looking forward to next season. Tommy has mono. I had mono my senior year of high school. Ironically, in January, I wasn't completely over it until May. Well, I hope Tomislav and the Illini have better medical people than you did with you, Rosie. I think, who was it? Kalkbrenner on, was it Creighton? He had mono, and he was only gone for like 4 games last year. So it's one of those where, again, it's hard because there is no diagnosis, like in the sense that, said person's going to be out for 3 games or said person's going to be out the rest of the year. The unfortunate thing is us Illinois fans, we're just going to have to wait this out and just see day by day, game by game, and see what happens, what kind of updates we get. Philip says, do you know if Brooks Barnhizer will play tomorrow? I believe he is. I think he is. I did a search for it online before I got to start recording. I haven't seen anything otherwise, but I can see Brooks playing maybe with the mask, which, could be a good thing. Brooks is a very physical player. Maybe having that mask on softens him up a little bit. I doubt it, but who knows? Czar says, I predict a fake rally at the end of the season to get our hopes up and then a first round flame out. Czar, I would expect nothing other than that from you. Robert says, I think a few technicals from Brad might let his players know he's backing them up. Exactly, Robert. That's kind of what I was alluding to earlier. In that Michigan State game, once Casparis got that 4th foul, like Brad should have been on the refs at that point. And don't just save it for the press conferences after the game, talking about the referees. At some point, we need old Brad. If nothing else, it might ignite State Farm Center. It might get the crowd going. It might get the crush going to see their coach, having smoke come out of his ears. Check it out. Says, we heard all year how deep our bench was, and now with when one guy goes out, we can't replace him. Yeah, check it out. We know we all made a mistake on how deep this team was, but if my everydayers in here know that I have been saying that Tommy was very important because we don't have anyone that duplicates what he does. So I don't think I was being dishonest when I say that. I thought we were going to be deeper with some of the other players, but Tomislav, I said from the onset when the season started that he's going to be really important to this team because I don't know what happens if he's going to be out. And unfortunately, we're going to find out. St. Dominic says, I heard Booth was leaving at the end of the season from my sources, and also says the season is over. Caitlin says, hope they figure out how to play without him. It's definitely going to be an adjustment, though. Brad and staff have got their work cut out for them, especially if Tommy isn't going to be back for weeks. And that's the thing. We just don't know. We have no idea. This team is built on rebounding, attacking the rim, attack for 4 rebounds. Ben Hummerkaus, if he's going to play the 4 next to Morez, we're going to need everybody to step up a little bit while Ivisic is going. Ivisic has been averaging, I think, 8.5 rebounds per game this year. We're going to have to make that up because that's just how this team wins. Philip says, Ben looks a lot better on defense now compared to what he did the last time we played Northwestern. You're exactly right, Philip. I completely agree with that. I think St. Dominic says, I think Tommy's done for the foreseeable. I had mono my senior year, and I've been, that's the sickest I've been my entire life. That's why Brad said Tommy was deathly ill. Yeah, it's just hard. I'm not a medical professional. I asked my wife, who is, and she says it's hard to diagnose. We don't have details, and it's such a vague disease that, again, he would honestly be back by next game, or he could be gone for the remaining season. Caitlin says KJ and Kylie need to figure out how to score points. Someone has got to make up for the points that Tommy lost us. We need KJ and Trey White to be big, and when some homer calls from refs, which are due, and need some homer calls from refs. Yeah, Richard, it's one of those things where I'm just going to stop talking about the refereeing at this point. I know every team deals with it, so I don't want to just keep making those type of excuses. It's just, we just need to step up. That's it. Check out some matchups with Northwestern don't look good. They have some real bigs with weight. Nicholson, 7 foot and 280. It doesn't look great on the rebounding side, but the good thing is they don't really score much, right? And that was what Maryland kept doing. They just would dump the ball down low, and either Queen or Reese would back our guy up and score an easy bucket over and over again. Northwestern really doesn't have that guy. I think Brooks is 6'6", and Martinelli, I believe, 6'7". We have a bunch of guys at that height. So, they did it to Ben Hummerkaus earlier, sure. And again, that's why one of the keys that I want to see is what kind of adjustments Brad makes. Tim Downs says, even if Tommy comes back, he's going to lose a crap ton of weight and be physically weak. Yeah, I can see that happening. Even KJ was getting the ball stolen from him in the Maryland game. It was tough. Yeah, it's the team was sick. We heard about it all week long. My source, literally after the post game, texted me and said, hey, these guys have not been practicing. The sickness thing is no joke. And obviously he can't tell me that stuff before the game in case, it gets out. But he texted me that immediately afterwards. And again, the good news is it sounds like everyone's going to be playing. Just how and to what level, we don't know. We're going to find out. More people not happy with Booth. If we're depending on Booth, who's rarely played all season, we are definitely done. This team can't win without Tommy. I feel sorry for KJ. He's an 18-year-old freshman, and we are putting it all on him. Check out, so we're kind of taking Izzo's formula, play a tough schedule, and just make the tournament. And now, how grateful are we that we did that, right? The fact that we put up these KenPom numbers, these net numbers, is because of what we did against that tough schedule. If we played a weak schedule, those numbers wouldn't nearly be that high, and we'd still be in the same position right now going into the Big Ten Conference, like in the meat of the schedule, and it would be tough. Here we go. Sonny, the season's over. Brad poorly constructed the team. Quit saying the team has a high ceiling. It's like students that getting C's and D's in school, and teachers tell them you have a high ceiling. Yeah, but it's also like those same students who have C's and D's in school, but then drop out and found those tech companies, right? Zuckerberg dropped out, Bill Gates dropped out, or Albert Einstein got C's and D's, right? Like, just because they've been struggling right now does not mean it's not going to click at some point. Cactus says mono hits people differently, just like COVID. Absolutely. Czar says you're a beast, Sonny. Thank you. Appreciate it. Illinois needs to make their threes, period. and won't be losing sleep over the thought of Booth leaving. Zara asks, did Brad chase off Hansberry for Booth? What a mistake. No, Hansberry left. He was going to leave regardless because Frazier left. Hansberry and Frazier have a very tight relationship. Frazier's the reason Hansberry came here, and Frazier's the reason, once he went to West Virginia, that Hansberry decided to follow him. Nothing about that situation would change. If Frazier was still here, Hansberry would still be here. And final comment, if we're healthy in March, regardless of the seeding, we have a decent chance of making a run in March. This team can be a giant killer. Absolutely, I agree. Thank you all so much. I seem to be developing something else in my own throat right now, so I should probably get off while I can. But make sure you're subscribed to this channel, because I'm going to go live immediately after this Northwestern game, as I do each and every game. I don't know if I'm going to have a guest on, but we'll find out. I'll reach out to a couple of people. But regardless, hopefully we get to celebrate together. I really am not in the mood to do another therapy session, but if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. Thank you all so much. ILL, love you guys.